Question number 5. How does your lupus affect you? And which symptoms affect you the most?
My lupus affects me on a daily basis. When I wake up, I don't know if I'm going to have a good day or a bad day. Most of my days are bad days, but I just get on with it because I have no choice. I've been living with it for so long, so I just deal with it. The symptoms that affect me the most is the joint pain that I get, my legs. I can't walk long distances anymore, can't run. Going upstairs, I get very breathless. I'm constantly getting headaches. I'm still always tired, and the mood swings are not the greatest things that I have. Very emotional. Sometimes I'll just cry at the most silliest things. I love my soaps, so even when I'm watching soaps now, I'm crying over things. I'm like, my daughter's like saying to me like, "Why are you crying?" And I'm like, "I don't know," and I'm still crying.
Well, now it affects me quite a bit. So the symptoms that affect me is that I've basically been labelled as partially sighted now. Before that, I was just a normal girl living my life, just trying to live normally.
Oh yes, the mobility. Okay. Yeah, because I went through stages with that. Yeah. I was on like 20 years of crutches and sometimes 1, 2, and sometimes I'll be on the street and I have to ring my ex-husband or my son to bring my crutch because I'll be ending up on the street, bracing against something to support me. So it was like that for a while. So I realized I couldn't. Yeah, the mobility, I think.
I think what I get now would be the fatigue. I used to suffer with horrendous pain. For some reason, I think my prayer had been heard. I think the first time the pain took me, and it's always been the pain. I have had the bouts where you then realize you were allergic to a drug because you had vomiting and diarrhea and all this. So different things happen. And I think for me, the pain and the fatigue tend to be the things that would happen. Now, it's just me learning to behave and pace myself. Because I think with anything, when you have a good day, you do everything. And then but I don't really crash out that much. But, like the last few weeks and even this weekend, I had to say to myself, no, pace it. This is why when they said, what time next week, I was like, Tuesday would be a good day because I would have rested after a heavy weekend, doing a lot of stuff. So now I think during the pandemic, I developed a Baker's cyst in my right knee. So this pain in the right knee. And it really gets horrible. So that has been my little bane. And of course, managing now the colostomy bag. I call it my boyfriend, Louis. And managing that has been, for the last 3 years, the biggest sort of challenge, adapting to that and, knowing how to manage it, knowing what to eat, making sure, because if you eat certain things, you're going to have an embarrassing moment in public. Or you might be thinking, is this going to pop on the train? And, so you have to really manage what you're doing, how you're eating, and that sort of thing. So I think now it's that, and just knowing, take the time to rest so that you don't flare, because I haven't had any major complications with my organs recently, and my skin has been fairly good.
I have lupus nephritis. I was originally diagnosed with lupus, systemic lupus, because of the type of antibodies in the DNA that I have. But I suffer more with symptoms from discoid lupus. So the rashes, like on my hands, my skin, my scalp. I've lost my hair. Can I show? Because sometimes when you explain, people don't really understand. So it's easier for me to just kind of. So like as you can see, like obviously like I've lost my hair, and then you have like the marks and everything, and obviously it becomes very irritable. becomes very hot and very itchy and flaky. So those are the symptoms that I suffer the most. Obviously, I have lupus nephritis, so I suffer with the kidneys as well. But I think for me, what affects me the most is obviously the skin and the scalp. And that is because those are the things that are visible. I can't see my kidneys. Obviously, the tiredness is another thing. And the joint pains is something that obviously affects me and is quite stressful because it's more of a nuisance. Some of the things are more of a nuisance, and you underestimate how having energy is so important for you. Yeah, so I think I have most of the symptoms, from the organs to the skin to the tiredness to the joints. But I think it's the ones that are visible and the ones that just affect you from doing everyday tasks that are the most difficult ones to just kind of not, I don't want to say get used to, but just try to deal and battle with. And that's why it becomes a daily battle. The fatigue, I think, for me, it's frustrating because people can't see it. And to call into work, I find myself exaggerating sometimes my symptoms. For me to call into work and speak to my manager and say, I can't come in today because I feel fatigue, it's like, even the ones that understand what severe fatigue is, unless you personally experienced it, you don't understand. Because they're like, oh, and that comes again, if you go back to relationship, oh, you just need to rest. I'm like, I can sleep for 24 hours and I don't feel like I've had much sleep. It's something that, yes, there's certain things you can do to not overburden yourself, but the way that fatigue and severe fatigue can affect you, it's like you just have flu and you don't have the energy to do anything, even just to sometimes get up and take your tablets because you think, oh my God, I've got to go and get water, then I've got to go take a tablet. And it's important, but you're just a bit like, I just don't even have the energy to just get up and to just go and do a simple task like that. And that's why that fatigue, it can affect your mood so much. And I've felt into points of being really low because I'm just like, mentally, I just want to get up and just do this and cook a meal, but I'm just like, I just can't. It's like there's a physical weight that's just pushing you down. And there's no tablets for no fatigue. There's no paracetamol, can't do nothing for fatigue. It's just, and sometimes that is just the last symptom to go. It's the first symptom sometimes to come, and it's the last one to go, just hanging on like it has nowhere to go, So yeah, it definitely is.
Wow, I didn't realize how diverse the symptoms were. I also didn't realize that each symptom was different depending on the person. Now I understand why it's so hard for doctors to diagnose people with lupus. Question number 6. What impact do you think your lupus has had on the lives of your loved ones?
The lupus has a big impact on my family, especially my daughter, because when I was first diagnosed with lupus, she was quite young. She was only about 10. And so imagine a 10-year-old seeing her mum going to hospital. Well, she's going to hospital for 2 things, because obviously originally I was in hospital because of the lump that they found in my throat. So she had to deal with that first, and then me going back into hospital, being diagnosed with lupus. So for her, at such a young age, she was always worried about her mum, and that affected me because I'm meant to be the mum. I'm meant to be looking after my daughter and being worried about her. And so I would always try and hide how, when I'm in pain, in front of her, because I didn't want her to see me being in pain. My sister as well, my younger sister, she always looked up to me and she didn't like seeing me in pain. And I didn't like my family always being worried about me. I was the person that always was looking after my family, but then it's like the roles had reversed. And that was a big impact, not only on my family, but on myself and how I felt. And I started to hate that. I started to hate myself even more, and how I felt. my friends and family are very protective over me. They don't want me to have an episode or flare up, so they tend to not tell me bad things because they're more worried about me. And sometimes I hate that because my friends or my family can't confide in me when they're going through a bad thing because they're worried how it's going to affect me. And that's something that I don't like, that my friends can't come to me if they've got a problem because they feel like it's going to affect me.
Oh, I think it's had quite a bit of effect, to be honest, because now I'm in a situation where I'm not able to do everything for myself. So I have to ask for help a lot. And I feel like it does affect the people around me, even though they might not say it, but it affects them.
My son, most of his young life was living with me, in and out of hospital. Not well. He at one point he was even crying, thinking I was gonna die, because I had multiple blood clots, multiple. I remember one of them, this leg, it was like all the way up. He was so concerned, you know. And I think most of his life he's been cheated in the sense of what I try everything, but I know he had concerns. My ex-husband, however, he was extremely supportive, extremely. Yeah. But to start with, at first, I'm going back a bit. When it started, he thought I was trying to get out of doing certain things, but my body was not up to it. I mean, definitely, yeah.
I think it has it has an impact, and I think sometimes as a lupus warrior, you forget the impact that it has along with your loved ones. Even though you try to deal with the symptoms yourself, you know, for example, if I'm very irritable in my skin and my scalp, then I can become irritable with other people because, you know, I feel this way and I'm trying to get on with it, and other people can't always understand the effort that you're making. So you can find yourself being a little bit short with them. Also, just the fatigue. So, you know, being able to, I mean, my husband's very supportive. So, you know, I'm grateful for that. But even with like friends, is, you know, they want to be on the phone for an hour and a half. I don't have an hour and a half to be on the phone talking because my time is precious. And, you know, I'm thinking I can be washing, I can be cooking, doing whatever I can with that little bit of energy. So sometimes friends don't always understand it. If you can't go out and you're like, oh, I don't want to have to over exaggerate my symptoms. I'm just tired. I'm just exhausted. I'm tired. I'm burnt out. You know, especially if you are having to work. I work full time, and I work in. You know, I'm a secondary school teacher, so I work in a stressful job anyway. So actually, sometimes when it comes to the weekend, I know you have a birthday party, and I want to support you, but I know that by me going, I'm going to burn myself out. And before I look, you know, Sundays come and then Mondays come, and nobody's coming to my house to cook, to clean, to wash dishes. So sometimes that can be quite difficult with my loved ones. Also, I guess that a lot of people, they want to help and they mean well, but because of their lack of understanding of what lupus is, sometimes their help effort doesn't actually help, you know. So it's like, oh, I can come and I can take your daughter for the weekend, and it's more like, actually I want to be a part of my daughter's life, and what you battle with is trying to do things like everybody else. So you suggesting that, I understand you're trying to help me, but you're actually making me feel less inadequate. So it's more about, you know, maybe what support do you need, you know, as opposed to let me just eliminate things from you. So I think sometimes it's that miscommunication that can kind of cause problems in relationships. And also, I mean, just because lupus is a part of you and it affects everybody in different ways. So for me, as much as my husband is like, oh, you know, I love you, you're beautiful, and even to my daughter, I would be like, Mom, you know, you're so beautiful. It sometimes you get frustrated because you feel, okay, you have to tell me those things. but they don't really understand that actually, I might not feel beautiful, I might not feel desirable for you, you know. So you get a little bit of a shock, and you've created this argument in your head that nobody even realized, you know. And sometimes I see my husband's face looking at me like I didn't even say nothing, but like, what is the problem? And it's like, well, you didn't compliment me today, or you complimented me too much, and those sometimes. So I think communication is very important, but I think, you know, over the time, my loved ones and my friends have started to become a little bit more educated.
Well, so I have a few cousins here, blood relatives. They are concerned and they will check in and make sure. I was married at the time of my diagnosis, and he just grew up and left home. He wasn't coping, divorced me and went on his way. And so I think that was one of the things that you had to deal with. For the rest of my family, especially because most of them are far away. I have two siblings. One lives in Trinidad, one lives in America. And their children know about it. My mom, I think, takes it on more than I do. But she's good. She checks in on me and on all of my siblings and a lot of my aunts and my cousins. And as I said, I'm really the one here, with the exception of a few cousins. But they have been very good, and my friends are fantastic. So they check in, they hold me to account when I'm overdoing things. And that is what I love, you know, because even sometimes when I have, you know, things playing up with the bag or whatever, my mom is like, "You're not resting." And then my friends would say, "You're not doing this weekend," or "You're not going." You know, so like even last weekend, we're supposed to go to Watford to meet this bus. And I said, "You know, I'm telling you all what you tell me, this is not happening. You know, my designated driver is going to So yeah, so I've you know, that has been good in that regard. I had to manage the first part when you're expecting somebody to care and then they disappear, and you try not to commit murder and all of So, but it's all good. It's all good. And as I said, I really do have to thank God I have a good support network. They're really there for me.